This Hollywood Casinos 400 Betting Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by the SGPN Free Roll Football Contest. Join our free season-long pick'em with up to $3,000 in prizes and a Super Bowl autographed SGP helmet up for grabs. Sign up in the link in the SGPN app. We're also brought to you by Gametime. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Gametime app and use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times your bet in one game. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. We're also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Wasting away again in the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, and we are here to break down the Hollywood Casino, not to be confused with Hollywood that's down the road from me, but some Hollywood that's somewhere in the middle of America. We're not talking about
the Hollywood that's down the road from me.
The Hollywood that's down the road from you, Cody, and you've been there before to watch a race. What did you get there? You got there for the Hollywood.
I was there in I was there in the spring this year and last year. I missed the fall. I hate it. I wish I was going this weekend. It lines up at a bad time. We got a lot of stuff going on. Didn't work out, unfortunately. So I'll be watching from home. But it's a great what a great track, great place. Probably the best race we've seen this season was the race at Kansas earlier this year. So we're in for a good one.
It was a damn good one. And hopefully, it's a good this time around, especially with the playoffs being in full swing now. Obviously, Kyle Larson locked in. His team can do just about whatever he wants. Saw a lot of people questioning why Kyle Larson is such a favorite on this track this weekend. And I mean, my only argument to this would be,
why would they question that? That's crazy to me. I mean, he almost won this race. He took the white flag as the leader in the spring, first of all. And he won here. It's been through 4 races ago now because it was the last race of the old car, but it's not that crazy. He's coming off of a win. Like, why would
that's my argument right there. He's starting to get hot a little bit, right? Yeah. I mean, this is when Kyle Larson wins, and you have to watch out.
Yeah. Well, and it's Kyle Larson. Like, the books are not going to they're not going to Chris Buescher or Kyle Larson. Like, if he wins, they're going to drop him just because he is Kyle Larson, and people will bet on him. And really, I mean, looking at, let's see, I'll make sure before I go too crazy into this, Rod doesn't have any bets on this. No, just kidding. But no, I mean, like they have nothing to lose, right? So, and we probably should have, I realized we didn't really talk much about Larson on the recap show, which is funny because we get so into the bets that it just, sometimes we forget about the guy who actually won the race, but doesn't matter. You didn't cash the bet for us. But yeah, I mean, Larson, so he's locked in. So like this week at Kansas, next week at Bristol, he can finish dead last. It doesn't matter. He's on to the next round, but they have the upside of just collecting playoff points. Like if he wins a stage, it's a playoff point that'll carry over with him. If he wins a race, that's 5 playoff. Like, and so now they can go for broke. Like they can roll the dice. So if you're going to bet on Kyle Larson, I would probably bet him to win and not anything else, just because they can take crazy swings and they can start testing stuff, right? So the first race of the next round is Texas. So if they think they've got something they want to try for Texas, Kansas is fairly similar track. It's a mile and a half. There's definitely some differences, but if you want to test it, this would be a good time. I mean, you've got the 9 and 48 cars you can test things on for sure as well, but the 5 car can do whatever they want these next 2 weeks because they're locked in. It does not matter what happens in these next 2 weeks. Of course, they want to get stage wins and race wins because everybody wants to win races, right? And you get all those playoff points, which could come in big handy because I have Larson going out in the next round because it's a rough round for him as far as tracks go. He's won before at the Roval, but hasn't been great there lately. He's not been what he was on road courses here lately. Talladega is a horrible track. Like I would venture to guess probably his worst track. If you go and look at the numbers, just because he's really, really bad at Talladega. He's bad at super speedways in general, extra bad at Talladega specifically. Texas is in there. Maybe he can go get the win there and not have to worry about those tracks. So that'd be nice for him, right? But yeah, it's a wide open bag for them this week, and they can do whatever they want. Maybe they'll bring a rocket ship tire in like Ty Majeski tried to do, and already locked in. Let's fuck with it. Why not, right?
I mean, listen, when you're pumping extra nitrous into your tire to get an edge, then NASCAR doesn't like that very much. But I'm pretty sure Kyle Larson knows how to put a little edge in his car without people finding out. Or just ask the Toyotas; they know how to put stuff underneath the decal wrap and try to get away with it, and that doesn't happen very often either. So,
yes,
yeah. Again, yes, we are in Kansas. It is, of course, the second trip of the season. Back to this track, the mile and a half that is the Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. Yeah, and look, so with the second round of the playoffs, you know that there are some folks that are going to be swinging for the fences. I noticed that our betting card has a couple of those drivers that will be, but a couple guys that we aren't kind of putting our bets on, and I feel pretty bad about it, is Kevin Harvick. We talked about him in the recap show. I don't know that we're saying goodbye to him for the season yet, but it seems as if, and Cody, I tried. I was looking at Kevin's odds, and I thought to myself, there are a couple here that are tantalizing, and then I stopped myself. I could not, for the life of me, bring myself to write Kevin's name down on the sheet. So I'm a little bit different. I found one way to kind of work in a possible Kevin Harvick win on this, but even that made me kind of a little cringy at the same time.
There is nothing about Kevin Harvick that makes me want to bet on him this week. It just, man, and I hate it. We love betting on Kevin Harvick. We only got 9 chances left, Rod. But after what happened last week, after how dejected he sounded going into the play, like it feels like they're checked out already. Like the comments about it, kind of feeling like they need to win. I don't know. I don't feel bad at all for not having Kevin Harvick this week. And if he beats me, great. It'll be good to see him win. He's in a sweet looking Sunny D car this week. Better than that nasty Busch Light bullshit. But no, I don't feel bad at all for not having Kevin Harvick. We know he can do it, but I just don't. My faith in that 4 car is running on E right now.
Well, so is his car. The thing about it is, and I bring his name up because obviously when you look at the track stats on this, Kevin Harvick's name just jumps up most top 10s of active drivers with 19 and 35 starts. Like the dude has 3 wins. He's among the active win leaders here, 12 top 5s, 5 poles. He's led 949 laps around this track. If you were somebody who is just joining us for the first time and you're doing a little bit of research into Kansas and you looked at that and wonder why we're leaving Kevin Harvick off of the card, it's just that reason. He has literally been a shell of his former self. Richmond should have been a good track for him. Last week should have been a good track for him. Neither one of those ended up being very good for Kevin Harvick. So it's just been tough. And that's what we're looking at as we head into this particular race in general. 3 finishes for him of 11th or worse when he was a top 10 machine before that. It's a little sad, to be honest with you. Same with Darlington.
Yeah, it is. One guy that I'm sad we don't have an opportunity yet. Pay attention to the Discord, because if we find this, we will be taking it. Chase Briscoe. If we can find a way to bet against Chase Briscoe, I don't care if it's BJ McLeod, who's not even in the race. Sheldon Creed's in that 78 car, which we'll talk about in a second. Anybody. Rod. I'll take Rod Villagomez over Chase Briscoe this weekend. I was at that Kansas race. That car would have been faster if it was an actual Mahindra tractor. It was so fucking slow. And then they had problems on top of that didn't help. It looked like the old days of the Starcom, that zero car. Like they drop the green flag and like the field goes racing by, and then it's like, and then it would run like 5 laps and then pull in, and that was it. Like it was just, like that's what the fortune. So if you get an opportunity to fade Chase Briscoe this week, anyone take the matchup. He will be the slowest car on the track. I almost guarantee it.
Well, DraftKings, if you hear that, offer us a Chase Briscoe head-to-head. We'll take anybody at this point. Give a truck driver ahead of him. We don't care. He'll drive all straight through the Saturdays, Friday, whatever, on Sunday and still beat Chase Briscoe. But DraftKings is who we are talking to. And can you believe that we have had 7 months without an NFL game? I know it's crazy. Obviously, you here in NASCAR land haven't really missed it all that much because we've had a lot of fun doing NASCAR on DraftKings as well. But the wait is over for the NFL. It is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for Week 1 this week. New customers get $200 in bonus bets instantly. If you've been sitting there waiting for your opportunity to get in, now is the time. You get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Check the app, see what you get. I know that we're talking all of our odds here. We're getting some of them from DraftKings as well. So hang tight. We'll give you some of our favorite lines from DK for this NASCAR race. Download now. Use code SGP. Sign up. New customers take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code SGP. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. My phone keeps telling me that Incubus is coming to town, but I'm not ready to buy tickets yet because I don't know if I can go. And I probably won't know if I can go to Incubus until a couple of days before. Well, if I was any other place but using the Gametime app, I would be mad and nervous and scared that I was going to get ripped off because I can't afford the tickets. Gametime stops that for me. That Gametime app is giving me the opportunity to sit and wait until I am good and ready to buy Incubus tickets because they are giving me flash deals and the best deals on all of my last minute ticket purchases. So I don't have to worry. And not to mention, when I do decide to buy them, I can actually sit there and figure out what I like the best as far as view wise, because they will send me pictures of where I'm going to be sitting right when I buy the tickets. So I don't even have to question as to where am I going to be sitting in an area where I can't see the stage. Nope. That question's answered by the photo that they'll send me of my seat. That way, if I don't like it, I can change it, figure out how to do it. So you can also be in control of your ticket purchasing and your last minute ticket purchases with Gametime. Download that app. It is, of course, the best place for those ticket deals, and it's the fastest growing ticket app in the country for a reason. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Cody. I don't know that I've ever outlasted the bed. Holy cow. That's something.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I have, for those of you guys who are inside baseball, I have a read underneath bet on my board, and I don't think I've ever gone longer than the read. That's crazy. All right, there it is.
I'm proud of you, Rod. Good job. Speaking of DraftKings, too, by the way, the sportsbook, great, obviously. We're partnered with them, love it. They've also got the DFS platform, which we talk about later in the week, which is great. I had an article come out today for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. It's got a stack from every single game on the Sunday main slate. $5 for the Millie Maker this week, Rod. Usually it's $20, $25, something like that. $5 for week 1. So I got some fun stacks in there. I went, you can always throw out Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson or Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but that's boring, right? Dug deep, found some little nuggets, found some interesting different ways to stack some things. If you read that article, $1 million, don't forget who gave you those stacks is all I have to say.
Just don't stack Lamar Jackson with anybody because, heaven forbid that guy throw for 300 yards.
Hopefully that guy that left that comment for you, Rod, doesn't read the article because I do have Lamar Jackson stacked with somebody. So, whatever. Haters are going to hate, Rod. They're just
everybody has opinions, man. Everybody has opinions. All right. It is, of course, the 2023 Hollywood Casino 400, 267 laps around this mile-and-a-half track for 400.500 miles. We talked about it last time. The spring winner of this race was Denny Hamlin. The previous winner of the Hollywood Casino 400, Bubba Wallace, with Denny Hamlin right in tow. Obviously, we know that we were high on Denny last week. Stands to reason we'll be high on Denny again. You look at the books and what they're giving you for this, and they're right there in line with us. Those of you guys who get the early lines, you also know this as well. Hamlin the favorite at 4.5 to 1 on DK, and we'll talk about everybody else later on. But yeah, Cody. I mean, again, round 2 or the second race of the playoffs, intensity's ramping up. I mean. Again, this is just going to be one of those crazy races. Hopefully we do get another good one like we did in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, think about how good that race was in the spring. Think about how good the races have been on intermediate tracks. I mean, we saw another one last week at Darlington, right? That was a good race. We've seen a lot of good intermediates lately. So, yeah, I think you add the playoff pressure then into that and everything that's on the line. And how many guys had problems? Playoff guys had problems last week, Rod. Like, They started to dig that hole. Now, nobody's in too big of a hole other than McDowell. McDowell's 19 points below the cutoff. Everybody else is within 4 points of the cutoff. It's very close there. Just tiny little mistakes, a loose wheel, speeding on pit road, any number of mistakes can eliminate you from the playoffs. You could look back and be like, if we didn't have that mistake at Kansas, that did it. The pressure is on these guys. We're going to Bristol next week under the lights on a Saturday night. Pressure is going to be ramped up. That's the first cutoff race of the playoffs. Take care of business this week, and you don't have to worry about it. Much like Kyle Larson, no pressure when he goes to Bristol. He can just show up and race. You win this week. If you're one of those playoff guys, you're locked into the next round. That means a lot. And again, the race means a lot. We saw it last week with Denny Hamlin. Like, he made out of there with an absolutely great day, despite a horrible finish, because he scored 20 stage points, got 2 playoff points to carry on in the next round. Like, it was still an overall positive day for them, even though they had the loose tire and ended up going lap down and all like that. So very important. Rod on the entry list this week. JJ Yaley's back in the 15. Cole Custer is back in the 51. Carson Hocevar returns in the number 42. Good to see him there. Might be a guy, no truck odds out yet, but might be a guy that we're going to be talking about, I would say. Pretty decent chance of that on the Truck Series show. Tune in for that on Thursday. Sheldon Creed making his Cup Series debut in the number 78 car. Not the best car in the world. I don't think he'll get his first win this weekend in this car. Maybe he will in the Xfinity. Who knows? But yeah, it'll be nice to see Sheldon out there getting his popping that next gen cherry, I suppose.
And it's crazy because Sheldon Creed, you would think at this point he would have gotten a look at anywhere else, right? I mean, it's just weird to think that this is his first opportunity. And of course, unfortunately, it comes in the 78 car, but maybe fortunately for him, it comes in the 78 car because there's no pressure, literally no pressure for him to go out and turn a top 10 like Carson Hocevar. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of pressure in Carson Hocevar to run a top 10 in the 43 or the 42 rather, but obviously, that's a more recognizable car number. It's a more recognizable team. Whereas the 78, you already expect
should be the slowest car every week.
Right. You already expect it to be riding around.
Unless Chase Briscoe's out there, but
but you already expect it to be. And so now he gets to go out and just sort of run a race and learn and get good. So
yeah. Well, that's what it's all about, right? Is these next gen cars are completely different from the Xfinity cars. Gives them a chance to get behind the wheel and just get some laps in. It's not going to be a fast car. He's going to be riding out there right ahead of Chase Briscoe, I'm sure, and just going around the track, and that's what he needs to do. Get those reps. So there isn't a ton of opportunities generally for Chevy drivers just because we don't have any like part-time like with the Ford guys. They can stick them in the Rick Ware cars, right? Because they've got those rotating cast of characters in there. And with Chevy, you've had the 42 car this year, obviously, and that's where Hocevar is getting his chance. But yeah, Creed obviously hasn't had a chance, but this will be a no pressure situation. Just go out there, log some laps. I'm sure their goal is just to finish as many. I mean, they're not going to be on the lead lap, but to finish all the laps that he gets a chance to run, minus whatever laps he's lapped, right?
Wouldn't it be something though if Sheldon Creed does manage to stay on the lead lap?
I mean, it would be something, but it won't happen.
I don't know.
That's a lot of caution flags, a lot of free passes. Maybe it's
about to say, maybe the book should give us, will Sheldon Creed finish on the lead lap? Yes or no? I mean,
I just want Sheldon Creed versus Chase Briscoe head to head because I would take Creed in that.
Well, the no, I'm sure the no would be juiced to high hell on that one. But I probably, I don't know, man. I'd probably put something on the yes. If the yes was decent enough priced, I'd take the yes. I'd take the chance. It's Sheldon Creed.
Speaking of that, Rod, I think that's it. I think there's no other news. We talked about, if you didn't catch it on the recap show, we did live yesterday. We hopped on right after Denny Hamlin signed his deal. Talked about that. Talked about the fallout from that. What other maybe dominoes will fall next. I think we're caught up on news, which means it's time to get to the bets, Rod.
It is time to get to the bets. Fine, let's get to the bets. But let's tell you first about Underdog Fantasy. We're going to have some Underdog Fantasy picks for you later in the week because we love guessing whether or not the finishing positions are higher than lower. And by the way, I may say, Cody, we kind of cleaned house on the Underdog picks from last week. There was a lot of good ones in there. I know I only missed one overall on the day, so I'm pretty ecstatic as far as how mine went. Hopefully you guys cashed as well. And we're going to continue to do that for you because Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside not just your favorite NASCAR drivers, but your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, finishing positions. Then you do what you usually spend your Sundays doing, watching the games or the race. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Like I said, we picked a couple of good ones. We had Allgaier in there for the Xfinity race. I know we had some Hamlin ones. We also had some good ones in there for the Cup race as well. So very excited about how that was. So yeah, definitely use that. Watch along, make your picks, and maybe, just maybe, make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Free season-long NFL Pick'em contest is here. $1,000 for first place, $500 for second place, but bump those prizes up a notch to $2,100 if you are a member of the Patreon for the NFL season. Plus, if a Patreon member wins the free roll football contest, you're going to get the autographed full-size Sports Gambling Podcast helmet, which includes guests like Joe Theismann, Bill Romanowski, Pac-Man Jones, John Saley, Eric Metcalf, and LeGarrette Blount. Woo! I want that. Sign-up link is in the SGPN app. Go get there right now. Pause this, do that, come back to this. SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Patreon to get in for your chance to double your prizes and win the weekly Patreon Pick'em.
I'd just like to apologize for beating you in that contest because I also want that, and it's going to look beautiful back here on one of my many shelves.
Never mind.
Rod's going to have to build a shelf behind.
I'm going to have to build a shelf. I'm going to have to figure out a way, like I said, to shift this entire thing
towards the wall,
toward my wall. But yeah, and you may notice that there is a lot more light coming through this side of the thing. I will say to you, we spent the weekend there's a giant deck that used to hang over this window and block out a lot of the light. We spent all day Sunday taking that down. So it was a major chore, and I'm glad it's done. But yeah, that was crazy. So now there's a lot more light.
There is, which highlights your beautiful Hawaiian shirt, as you mentioned, your Jimmy Buffett tribute. R.I.P. to Jimmy.
But,
all right, Rod.
All right, Cody. Let's get
into the bets. A Gonna go back to the well on this one. Mr. Dennis Hamlin. I can't stop betting on this guy. I don't know why. I love to bet on him. He's been good. He's gonna win the championship this year. It's gonna come from a good run this weekend. And yeah, this is again, we're going back to him finishing on the podium, Rod. Top 3 fit plus 160 over on Caesars. He has the best average finish at Kansas in the last 7 races there since 2020. He has 5 top 5s in 7 races. He's got 2 wins in that time frame. He's got 4 top 5 finishes in a row. He has 4 wins overall here. He won this race in the spring, as we talked about earlier, right? Was second place to Bubba Wallace last fall here. He has been very, very good here. He had the best car last week, right? Another intermediate track, not extremely comparable to Kansas, but still the same type of package, the same type of everything. They're going to show up with a fast car again. They always show up here. By the way, Rod, since the next gen car, 3 appearances here at Kansas Speedway, 3 Toyotas have won this. 2 of them Denny Hamlin owns, 1 of them Denny Hamlin drives. So a lot of correlation going into Denny Hamlin and his team / him being good here. So yeah, he had the best car last week, finished 3rd at Michigan, finished 2nd at Richmond, and he won Pocono. That's the last 4 oval, quote unquote, tracks. Pocono's a triangle, but still kind of an intermediate style of track. So that's, if had he the finish he should have gotten last week, as good as his car, it was a top 3 car, it was the best car on the day, right? And then 3 top 3 finishes in a row before that on oval tracks, oval tracks. So yeah, everything's been going well for Denny, other than the loose tire last week, which he did address on the podcast. He said that it definitely was loose. Basically, his explanation, I don't know if you heard. Did you hear, Rod?
I did not get a chance to listen yet. No.
His explanation was that they determined it was loose, that it's not always easy to tell right away on the little clip of a video they have in the crew chief stand there. So when they took it apart or whatever, it didn't look like it had been loose. That if you slow the video way down, which they didn't have the capability to do there, you can tell that the gun was still spinning, which means it's not completely tight. So Denny Hamlin is right. Some may say he's always right. Some may say that I am similar to Denny Hamlin in that case, but hey, whatever. But Denny Hamlin, right again. Other than that, though, I mean, things have just been going very, very, very well for this 11 car. Everything has been good. Arguably the best car lately in the series. I mean, well, Chris Buescher, I guess, has something to say about that. But I mean, he's been consistent. He's been fast each and every time. Been extremely good at Kansas. So yeah, give me Denny Hamlin plus money again to finish on the podium. I know we had this bet last week and it didn't cash, but it should have cashed. It was the right bet to make. We're going to go right back to that well and make it again. Racing gods are going to even it out for us. We'll cash it this week.
I'll talk more about Denny Hamlin later on in the episode, but I 1000% agree with you on this one as well. And of course, Denny, of course you're right. Oh, look, the gun slipped a little bit. Sure. Yeah. You got to argue with Denny Hamlin. We recreate our evidence here. It's like, hey, where's the intern? Tell him to kind of doctor this video up. Get him on Canva. Get him slipping this wrench a little bit, shall we?
Denny's also the only one who's ever seen that video. So the copy he has, it looks like it's still moving for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. All right. I am going to go to the top 3 market as well and put William Byron on the podium. This is coming in at plus 240 on 365. This is a little tougher case to make than Denny Hamlin. Obviously, we know Denny Hamlin has been fantastic here. William Byron, sit on the podium. He was 3rd place in the spring after starting on the pole, but he does not have another top 3 on this track, which is why I say it makes it a little difficult for you to make this case. But I will say that in his career, he has led a lap in all but 2 of the races that he has been in on this track, right? He has only had 2 races in his career in which he has not led a lap, and those are the first 2. Crashed out of the first one after 252 laps and only got 55 laps into his second one in the fall of 2018. But since then, he's had a top 5 finish in 2019, 10th place in 2020, 8th place in that other 2020 race, and then a 9th place in that other 2020 race, 6th, and 3rd. it's not a bad finish for William Byron all over the place for him. Obviously, we know what he's done so far this season, right? He's got his 5 wins on the year, the last coming, of course, at Watkins Glen. 4th place at Darlington last week. That was kind of a miraculous one. We thought he wasn't going to necessarily be up there in the end, especially starting 23rd, but he managed to get there and finished 4th, which could have been a 3rd place finish anyways. Talk about 2nd at Charlotte, 1 Darlington in the spring, 3rd at Kansas, 4th at Dover, 1 Phoenix, 1 Vegas, right? So if there's anybody that's going to be able to finish top 3, now I feel like he's got a little bit of momentum going after that 4th place finish. It was kind of a rough go for Byron. He had started out hot and then cooled down for as much as a driver can cool down when you're still posting top 10 finishes. But, for him, it's definitely been a struggle in the middle of the season, but the summer's cranking down. The playoffs are cranking up. He's got an average finish of 12th on intermediate track since February of 2020. 3 wins, 12 top 5s, 22 top 10s. But again, we're seeing a very different William Byron at the beginning of the season. And I think he kind of reclaims that a little bit. And I like the number again for a top 3 finish at plus 240 on Bet365 for Byron to finish in the top 3.
I know that Larson's one of the favorites, but Byron's got 5 wins this season, Rod. So obviously the guy can get it done. Hard to argue with that. I have something on Byron here in a little bit as well, so we'll talk about him more at that point. Next up for me, Rod, Mr. Bubba Wallace, top 5, plus 200 over on Bet365. No track has been better for Bubba Wallace than Kansas Speedway in this next-gen car. So he's got 3 starts here in the next-gen car. Let's go back to last spring. I was at that race as well. The fastest car, no question about it. Super, super fast. And then they had, I don't remember what order it went in, but at some point there was a pit road penalty that cost them. Super, super fast, flying back to the field. Then I think he was speeding on pit road. Super, super fast. And they had another mistake, cost them. Still, after 3 mistakes, ends up finishing 10th. Not a bad day. Had the fastest car. His teammate Kurt Busch got his final career win that day. Cool to say I was at that race that Kurt Busch won his final race. That's pretty cool. And that was my first race, like actually covering a race too. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Nice. But Bubba Wallace, extremely good that day. Had to settle for the 10th place finish. The stats don't necessarily show how good that car was, how good he was. You go to last fall, he was in the 45 car. It was still his 23 team. They switched the numbers for the whole points deal, whatever. But he wins that race, right? Finally gets that first not rain shortened win, not super speedway win. What are they going to say about us now, or whatever he said as he crosses the line? All that. Wins the race. Great. Very, very fast. In the spring again this year, I was at that race. I live bet him from the racetrack to win that race because his car was fast. It looked good. It didn't pan out. He got up there for a little while, then kind of fell back. Ends up finishing 4th, but 4th, not a bad finish at all. 4th would cash a top 5 finish for Bubba Wallace. And again, I said it, like 3 Toyotas have won the 3 races in the next gen car, and twice it's been 2311 cars, which he's driving, and he was one of them that won it, right? So they've got something figured out here. They're very good here. He's very good here. He's also extremely good at Michigan, one of his better tracks. This is considered mini Michigan. It's a little bit smaller, but races very much the same way. Love Bubba Wallace this week. Plus 200 is a great number for him on a top 5 at plus 365.
And I love Bubba too this week. I think he is going to turn a lot of heads in this. I love what the broadcast was saying about him too, as far as just him being more focused, had his head in the game this time around last week. And it showed on the track. He's very much capable of really running good races if he just keeps his head in the game. A lot like me in a sense, where my teachers always said that if I was focused, I could do good work. And I would always ask them, what? Because I wasn't paying attention to them. So at some point, I think it'll have to sink in for him and for me. Let's hope that ever happens someday. Teachers, you were right, I guess. I don't know. You tell me.
Were you talking about something, Rob?
I don't know. I'm watching something around. I don't know. Look here.
Wow.
My Adobe Audition is bouncing back and forth.
Are we sure it's a good idea that window's open and you can see out now?
Oh.
Not to be like, oh, there goes a squirrel.
No.
Bird.
Birds swooping around. All right. Speaking of swooping around, Chris Buescher swooping around the top 10, but I'm going to give him a top 5 in this race. His top 5 number is at plus 200. I didn't like his top 10 number. I think the books pretty much don't want to get
They
burned.
figured it out finally.
Yeah, they were like, well, so I guess if I want to bet on Buescher, I'm going to have to take a top 5 for him. Look, I don't have to tell you. If you've listened to this show even for like one day, you know how good Chris Buescher's been lately, right?
Let me look at my notes for Austin Hill last week.
Oh, yeah.
Have you watched a race this year? Okay.
But the only thing that makes this a little bit more, I guess, leveled up than the typical top 10 bet that we've been able to cash is the top 5. But I mean, the last 2 races, he's finished in the top 5. He won right at Daytona, 3rd at Darlington, 1st at Richmond, 1st at Michigan. Like, it's just for Chris Buescher, the only thing he's been getting is better. And that to me is the sign of that team being confident, being strong, and being able to outlast some of what happened last week too, to get themselves in position for a top 5 finish, because that was not an easy race to finish in the top 5 in. There was a lot of gremlins jumping up to catch people, namely Harvick, namely Hamlin. If those guys slip up, a guy like Chris Buescher can slip up, but he didn't. He held firm. He stuck his ground. He finished in 4th place. I feel like this is going to be another race in which that's probably going to happen as well, where there's a lot of folks that are going to slip up. And I don't think Chris Buescher's in that position right now to do that. And I think, like I said, a top 5 finish for him would be fine. He does not have a top 5 finish at all on this track. So can't necessarily claim that.
Yeah, with Buescher though, like, throw out all the past. The past stats almost mean nothing at this point with him. Like,
yeah. And that's really what it is too. You're kind of going off of exactly the momentum that he's been carrying with him, because there's some times when a player or a driver can just flip a switch and it doesn't matter what you did anywhere else. You're doing it now. And that's really what it is about Chris Buescher. He's doing it now, and he's doing it when it counts. So that team's dialed in 2-1 for a top 5 for him. Yeah, I'll take that.
Mini Michigan, right? That's what they call this track. 1 Michigan. So there's that for you. This is, I'm mad that Rod made it to the document first, because this would have been the first bet I would have logged. This is, you have got to bet on this. Minus 150 for the top 10. They did wise up there, but the top 5 at 2-1 is still good odds. Again, he's the Austin Hill of the Cup Series right now, or Austin Hill's the Chris Buescher, the Xfinity Series, whichever way you want to look at it. He's won 3 of the last 4 ovals, and he finished 3rd in the other one. So things have been going pretty well for Buescher. I've got more to say on Buescher later. Next up for me, Rod, these 2 bets here in this box are just pure value bets. Chase Elliott, a top 10, is at plus 140 over on Bet365. If you would have told me going into the season there'd be a point where we could get Chase Elliott on a regular, on any racetrack, really, he's good at all of them, but at plus money for a top 10, like, you'd have thought that was crazy, right? It's crazy. I know the season hasn't gone how they want. I know he's not in the playoffs for the drivers. He is in the playoffs for the car, which does mean something. Means something for his contract. First of all, there's likely bonuses built in for where they finish. Means something for, and they take 3-year average for paying that out. Means something for the owner. It means something for the crew. Like, that's where everybody's pay gets determined, is where that car finishes in the owner standings. They're still in it. I know Dale Jr. said nobody cares about the owner standings. It doesn't really matter. But hey, we saw Bubba Wallace won in this race actually last year in the car. He was only driving a number 4 because of the owner standings. So whatever. But Chase Elliott should not be plus money for a top 10. That's basically what you're looking at here. Finished 7th here in the spring in this race. He had 2nd place in October of 2021 in this. He has 9 top 10s and 17 starts. 1 win here, which actually was my daughter's very first Cup Series race she went to. Got to see Chase Elliott win the race. So her favorite driver, because that's the driver that's been pushed on her. But that's how it works, right? That's raising them right. So, yeah, exactly. But he's good here. He's been he finished 8th last week. He's got 3 top 10s in the last 4 races. At intermediates, he wrecked at Michigan, but 10th place at Pocono, 4th place at Nashville, 3rd place at the first Darlington race, 7th place here in the spring. Like, he's been serviceable, right? And his odds just, it shouldn't be this far. The books are maybe falling asleep a little bit on him. Just, I mean, he finished in the top 10 even last week. Like, it's not like he's on some horrible run, and 3 of the last 4 races. So even though they're out of it, I get it. They haven't been the fastest car, but that doesn't mean he could show up and be the fastest car at any point. That those Hendrick cars are fast. If they get it figured out, you've got to watch out. So yeah, Chase Elliott should not be this far of odds. On the track, he's pretty decent at. He's got a win before. So yeah, Chase Elliott plus 140 for the top 10. And then my long shot for the week, or one of my, I guess I've got multiple long shots, but one of my long shots for the week, Austin Dillon plus 800 for a top 10 with our friends over at DraftKings. I probably should specify what the bet is in the document, but top 10 plus 800 over on DraftKings for Austin Dillon. Dillon is very, very good at Kansas, particularly for whatever reason. It's like, first, let's go back and look. 9th place to the Coke 600, a track very similar to this one. He's won there before. He's won at Texas before, another track similar. 9th place at Auto Club earlier this season, similar to Michigan, which Michigan is one of the comparable tracks to this one, right? So all comparable. He finished 11th here in the spring. He's got again, my notes. It's always a mess, Rod. I can't even read. I just wrote these notes this afternoon. Still don't know what I'm trying to say. He has the 11th best average finish at Kansas since 2020 in those 7 races at 13.6. He finished 10th here in the spring, and he's plus 800 to do the same thing again. Here is his last 6 finishes at Kansas, Rod, and you're getting him at 8-1 to finish inside the top 10. He's finished 10th, 14th, 13th, 10th, 10th, and 11th. That's all pretty damn close to being in the top 10, and he's in the mix at the end of the last 6 starts at this track. Like, he's sneakily kind of good here. 8 of his 20 starts at this track, he's finished 11th or better. He's got like 4 11th place finishes, so that's why I moved it up to 11 instead of 10, because it sounds a little better, but hopefully he doesn't finish 11th and not cash this bet at 8-1 for us. But for a guy that consistent, 6 races in a row, 14th or better, and 3 of them have been inside the top 10, including the last time we were here earlier this season. Like, he shouldn't be this long of odds. Again, this is part of the effect of taking focus off of non-playoff drivers. Sure, he's a non-playoff driver, probably not going to win this weekend, but he's in a team and a car that's fast enough that they can get wins. His teammates got 3 wins on the season, and some of those at intermediate style of tracks as well. So yeah, I love Austin Dillon, top 10 at plus 800, and then the Chase Elliott top 10 at plus 140.
You got to wonder at what point Chase Elliott just decides to throw his foot through the floorboard and just mash that thing and beat everybody for the rest of the season. That point's got to come for a guy like Chase Elliott.
Yeah, and that's like the thing is with a team like this, and we'll talk about this more here in a few. They can show up and be the best car any given weekend. It's a Hendrick car. Hendrick is still the number 1 team in NASCAR. I get lately Gibbs has been faster probably, although Hendrick won last week in the 5 car, right? Maybe they're pushing the limits or trying something out. Maybe they get something by NASCAR. That's what Denny was saying this week on his podcast was that 98 truck. Remember how fucking fast it was at IRP? Probably were pushing the limits a little. And then NASCAR said the next race, let's take a little closer look, and they found something. So that's kind of how this stuff works, right? And that's what you're doing. They've got 2 other cars in the playoffs, and they're trying not saying they're cheating or whatever, but that's how you win races, right? And things can happen, and it's a fast team. It's a fast car. It's a good driver, former champion. He led the league in races, won last year. No reason he can't, get a win. He doesn't have any wins this season. So just because he's out of the playoffs, it doesn't matter. You could still win races, and all you got to do is finish in the top 10. You're not even asking him to win the race to cash this. So, yeah, I think that this is just a blatant misprice. There was zero part of me that was going into this week with Chase Elliott circled. He's a guy I need to bet on, but the odds are there, and you've got to take advantage when the books kind of drop the ball a little bit on the odds.
Speaking of former champions, speaking of fast cars, speaking of good drivers, Joey Logano, one of those guys. That's all 3. Again, the top 10 odds for me outside of, and Elliott obviously being notwithstanding, they're just a little bit gross. And I scrolled down till I felt like it wasn't quite as gross, and it landed on Joey Logano. So literally the handicap was I scrolled down till I found a name that I didn't feel gross suggesting as a top 10. At plus 110 on Bet365 is Joey Logano. Look, he finished 6th here in the spring, which means he can do it, right? The downside of Joey Logano and the downside of betting Joey Logano is just the fact that he can give you a 6th place finish in Kansas, but he can turn around and give you a 14th in Michigan, a 35th at Pocono, 19th at Nashville, 21st at Charlotte. Those are the type of days that he can give you. It's been a frustrating season for the reigning champion, and he's still in it. He could still figure something out. It's not too late to turn his season completely around and to win, right? I mean, obviously, he was laying low for a long time and popped out of the weeds in the playoffs. This could be a very good opportunity for him to try to do that again. Not asking him to win, not even asking him to get a top 5. We're just asking a playoff driver who we traditionally see that whole top 5, 10 pylon pretty much yellow, because these playoff drivers run in the top 10. That is what they do, and that's what they've done since the invention of the playoffs. Pretty much every time you see the top 10, it's usually all yellow because all playoff drivers are in that mix. So Joey Logano, I think, could very easily be one of those drivers on this track in particular. I mean, look, like I said, he finished 6th here, but in 28 starts, he's got 11 top 10 finishes, and he's actually among the top 10 in active leader or active drivers in that category. So he's not necessarily the worst. Again, he's not the best, but for a top 10 finish out of a guy who won the championship last year at a track where he got a 6th place finish earlier in the year, I think I'll take that, especially at the odds that they're at for top 10s, plus 110. At least you're going to kind of double up on your money if this bet hits. Again, you're going to have to hold your nose probably through this race, and he may not even look like he's going to finish inside the top 10, but I think by the end of the day, he very much could be there, and we'll be happy that he was. I'm going to look back at the spring. Logano he won stage 2 before falling back into 6th place for the finish. So again, there's some speed there. We just got to see it out of him on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think at plus money, it's definitely worth a look. I'm so out on Penske right now, and I don't, not intentionally, but just I have not seen much from them lately. I've not been impressed. Logano, I've said it before, he's the hardest guy in the garage to peg when he's going to show up, when he's not going to show up. So yeah, I'll go with you on it, but I don't know how to feel about Penske or Logano right now.
Hold your nose. It's better when you don't smell it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's the way you do it. Next up, Rod stole the matchup that I wanted, so I pivoted, went to the next matchup that I wanted. Bubba Wallace over Ross Chastain. It's minus 125. Definitely juiced up a little bit, but I think for good reason. I talked about Bubba earlier and how fucking good he's been at this track. Had the best car in at least 2 of the last 3 races. And he's been so good. What have you seen out of Trackhouse lately that makes you feel good about them? Ross Chastain finished 5th last week, Rod, because he just survived, because he sort of got, I mean, they showed him, he was getting lapped. He was not fast at all. Like, got to wave around at that one point where everybody got lucky on that. And things just kind of lucked out for him, and it worked out okay, but ends up with a decent finish, but not because his car was fast. It's not going to be fast again this week. There's been 0 I've been impressed with from them lately. Let's go back. So he won 11 races ago. He won at Nashville, Rod. In the 10 races since, 2 top 10 finishes. 8 times he's finished outside of the top 10. I think Wallace is easily going to be inside the top 10. I think he's going to be inside the top 5. Maybe even wins this race, Rod. I don't think there's going to be any competition here from Chastain. Just that something's not clicking at Trackhouse right now, and I've not seen it out of them, and they've not impressed lately. So yeah, all out on Chastain, all in on Bubba. Give me Bubba over Ross, minus 125.
Is he driving the 91 in the Cup Series? Is that what's happening? Did they give him the 91?
Oh shit!
I don't. It seems to be what's happening.
91 in the Cup Series is supposed to be good though. The Jesus himself won in that one.
That's right, he did. Well, and here's the thing with Ross Chastain. Yeah, you got to. I mean, I want to go back again and watch that race to figure out how he managed that, because there was some voodoo.
When I looked up this, I was like, he finished, and I double checked on a different site because I was like, he did not finish 5th, did he? I was like, what? And I was like, I guess he did finish. So perhaps for them to figure it out but was not the 5th, wasn't even the 15th fastest car in that race. Like, and shout out to them for finding a way to get it done. And, you got that extra 100 miles at the end, probably made the difference, right? And the bets don't cash if he finishes good, but he's not had the speed to finish good at all, for sure.
Not even a little. All right. The matchup that I stole from Cody was Tyler Reddick over Christopher Bell at -110 over there on Superbook. Boy, Chris Bell, right? You win the pole and you think you're sitting pretty. You lead 40 laps. You think, oh man, this is fantastic. And then all hell breaks loose and you finish 23rd. You're barely even. You're not even on the lead lap by the end of the day. Just a terrible day for him. You think, well, that's just bad luck. Yeah, but it's been following Chris Bell around for the last few weeks, right? 16th place finish at Daytona. He did get a third place at Watkins Glen, 9th at Indy Road Course. But, again, those are two situations that were road courses. We're not on a road course. Mini Michigan, Cody keeps saying, well, hey, you know what? Christopher Bell started on the pole that day too. Fantastic, right? 13th place finish on that day. Not very good for him there. Loudon, he started on the pole at Loudon. Great day for him at the end, right? Nope, finished 29th. So listen, Chicago, 4th, 18th. Like he's the king of qualifying well and not necessarily finishing well afterwards. And he's kind of done that all season long. Kansas started 12th, crashed out of that one, 36th place finish for him there. You go back through his career, a couple of good finishes for him, a 5th place, a 3rd place in 2022. He had an 8th place in 2021 in the 20 car. But his first race in the 20 car on Kansas was in 2021. He started 8th. He was in for a good finish, right? Nope, 28th. So yeah, it's not been very fun for Christopher Bell in this car lately. So on the other hand, Tyler Reddick, 2311. We talked about the Toyotas. We talked about 2311 in particular being the ones that were in this. Tyler Reddick is in that 45 car that has graced victory lane a couple of times over the last couple of seasons. So it stands to reason that he's going to have a good day. In fact, he did have a fantastic day earlier this year in the spring. He started third he started third at Darlington last week. And finished second. That's what I meant to say. But in the spring, he started 5th and finished 9th, led 23 laps. He was a fast car all day long. So definitely good for him there. He actually has had his fair share of difficulty, though, on this track as well. Kansas in 2022 in the fall, he started on the pole. Great day for him, right? Nope. Finished 35th. He crashed out. Led 38 laps, still a fast car around there in that 8 car. Started second in the spring of 2022, finished 30th. So again, he's had his fair share of trouble as well. But we want to talk about drivers on different trajectories. I think Tyler Reddick is on the rise, or at the very least at a higher plateau than Chris Bell lately, at least. And I think this matchup is going to fall the way of Tyler Reddick over Christopher Bell, -110.
Yeah, I love this matchup. I am very, very big on Tyler Reddick. And you laid out the case. Like, it's just been rough for Christopher Bell outside of qualifying. Very, very good at qualifying. Other than that, not been good for him. Love Tyler Reddick this week. I've already talked about his team. I've already talked about his teammate. I've already talked about his car owner. About to talk about him. So, next up for me, Caesars has a boost over here, Rod. And it's all to finish in the top 5. So, you got to get 3 drivers inside the top 5. The chances of that, not super great, but at 12-1, I think these 3 drivers could do it. We've already made the case for all 3. That's what makes it great. This is a pre-built one. They've already got loaded in there, 12-1. So you need William Byron to finish in the top 5. You made the case for him to finish in the top 3. So I rest my case. Tyler Reddick, I'm about to make the case for him to win this race. You just made the case for him to get a good finish. And Chris Buescher, who's finished in the top 3 in the last 4 ovals, winning 3 of them. I don't think I need to say much more. I think that, again, it's so hard to predict 3 of the top 5. It's definitely not easy, so I'll go crazy on this. But a lot of times I'll look at these and I'm like, oh, I really like 2 of those guys, but I don't like the other one. Or I really like one of them. But, it's like they always throw in that one guy where it's like, that's the guy that's going to drag this down. But I feel less good about Byron, honestly, in this group. And yet he's probably been the best driver this year, right? He's got 5 wins, right? He's been one of, came into the playoffs as the points leader, when they reset everything. So, so give me this. Byron, Reddick, and Buescher to finish in the top 5 at 12-1. Also, poll odds just dropped over on Caesars. Thank you for getting those out in time for us to record this. Shout out to you. But I am going to take 2 different guys to get the poll here. Actually, I just added Christopher Bell as you were talking because of the fact that he's like the Ryan Newman of today, right? The Rocket Man, like always sitting on the pole. Doesn't always translate to a lot of wins, but he is super good at getting on the pole. He won the pole last week at Darlington in intermediate. He was fast, right? He won the pole in Michigan. This is the Kansas, is the mini Michigan, right? Won the pole at Auto Club. Auto Club is just like Michigan. Michigan, Kansas is the mini. Like it all lines up for Christopher Bell at 10-1. He sat on the pole 4 times this season. For Tyler Reddick, I'm going to take him at 9-1 to win the pole as well. He finished started 5th here in the spring. He won this pole won the pole last year in this race, and he started 2nd last year in May, or last year in May. So in the 3 races here in the next gen car, he started 1st, 2nd, and 5th. They've all been pretty good. Now, only one of those was with Toyota in 2311, but they've had nothing but speed at this track, as I've laid out this entire show. So Tyler Reddick to sit on the pole 9-1, Christopher Bell to sit on the pole at 10-1, and then give me Byron, Reddick, Busher top 5 plus 1,200. All that's over on Caesars.
That was the all to finish top 5, one of my favorite ones there. I couldn't pull the trigger on it because I don't know why.
It's so, I mean, and like they'll probably all be top 5 cars at some point, but like getting them to all finish in there, it is tough. But at 12-1, I think it's priced appropriately for the chances it has, and I think it's worth a little shot at it.
No, and I 1,000% agree with you. That's what I'm saying. Like I knew that was one that I was leaning toward. It just didn't make the cut. This one did though, which is probably I should have flipped it around. I should have had yours instead of mine. But listen, I don't know why I love the fact that they're offering Ford. I know that they're all dumping on Ford, and that's fine. 4.5-1 on DK for the winning manufacturer. Obviously, the least favorite of them. Chevy's at +1. I think 80 is what I saw, or something. And then Toyota's at +120. Like those two are just, they're not even worth betting, honestly. If one of them hits, then of course it's worth betting. But if you want value, a Ford to win is a value at 4.5-1 over on DK. I know that Toyota's won. I know that Chevy's won. I know it's been a very, very long time since a Ford has won on this track. So it comes with a very, very heavy amount of risk, which is exactly why it's at 4.5-1. But in that mix, I mean, you've got guys, if you look back at the track history on this, okay, of the active winners, Denny Hamlin has 4. The next on that list, though, Joey Logano with 3 wins, Kevin Harvick with 3 wins, Brad Keselowski with 2 wins. So that's already 8 wins right there in the last few races for Fords, right? Now, Greg Biffle on the other, well, Kevin Harvick, I think a couple of those maybe have come with Chevys, but yeah, when he was with Childress. But by the same token, a driver that's driving a Ford has those wins, right? I mean, he does have one with the 4 car, so we can count that kind of in there. And then they even got Greg Biffle listed in there. And Greg Biffle,
that's how you know it's mini Michigan. If Greg Biffle was successful here, that guy owned Michigan.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. He's even got a couple of wins in the mix. So this is a long shot. It's a long shot for a reason. But when you got guys like Harvick, Keselowski, Busher, Logano, Blaney, like
hey, Rod, who's won 3 of the last 4 ovals in the NASCAR in the Cup Series?
A Ford driver. This is what I'm saying. Ford is hot at the right time. I know that the Toyotas and the Chevys keep eking out wins on this, but at some point the dam's got to break, and Ford's going to have to start winning these races, and not just be happy with top 3s and top 5s. So this could very well be the race. It could very well be Busher again, and I'm looking forward to it if it is. Obviously, you're going to make a case for it later, but Keselowski could jump in there and do that. Harvick could come back finally and do it. It's not out of the realm of possibility that one of these Fords could win, and I think 450 is kind of a disrespectful price for how well they've been kind of running as of late.
Yeah, I mean, over the 2 seasons we've been doing this show, how many times have we hit specifically Ford as the winning manufacturer because the odds, and the only reason we take it is because the odds were big, and that's why you take it again. I seriously looked at Toyota. I am just in love with Toyota this week. I think they're going to dominate this race. But plus 110 or whatever, I think I found it in one spot. It was just like but at Ford, I mean, as much as I love Toyota this weekend, this is a good bet Ryan Blaney can win this race. We know he can do it. He won. I can't remember where his win was. Did he win the Coke 600? Is that what it was? I think he won at an intermediate earlier this year. Joey Logano can win at any point. He's won here before. Chris Buescher's won 3 of the last 4 oval races. I mean, right there, right? Florida's won 3 of the last 4 ovals. You're getting about plus 450. Keselowski can win. There's a number of Ford guys that can win this race. And at this number, it's just, and it's a good hedge. Like, if you want to go all in on a Hamlin or a Larson, I mean, you can get Ford and all the Ford drivers at the same price as you're getting one of those guys. And we've seen it a lot lately where the favorite or even the best car doesn't always win these races. And that's how it pans out. And yeah, we've hit this Ford one a number of times, specifically you. This is almost like your over under number bets where you're so good at them, right? So yeah, this is a great bet. I love it. Even though I'm all in on a different manufacturer this week, the price is right. And sometimes it is smart just to bet things based on prices. I get that same thing with the Elliott thing earlier. And I've got somebody in my winner section here. I'm only betting because of the price. Like, some things just shouldn't be priced where they are. And this is one of those.
I concur. Yeah, I had to weigh my options because the winning number bets were juicy, but they weren't as juicy as this one. So I definitely kept this one instead of the number bets. Plus, I wanted to shake things up a little bit. I don't do manufacturers normally, so got to keep it fresh.
A few times you've thrown it out, it's paid off. So something to be said about that.
Cross our fingers that's another one. So, all right, we'll be back with some winner picks after we introduce you to a show we love. It's football season. You got to be listening to this show if you want to get an edge on your fantasy football season.
Hey, everybody. If you play fantasy football, especially in auction leagues,
or you're a whiskey fan.
Yes, exactly. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast Fantasy Football Channel show, Old Fashioned Football.
Coming to you every Tuesday morning. Give us a listen. We'll bring you the latest fantasy football data, including
the injury report,
studs and duds,
waiver wire targets,
and suggested fab.
Market movers. After all, we are the Marks.
He is my hubby.
And she's J Mark's wifey.
And we're bringing all this to you while drinking an old fashioned and giving you our honest review of a different whiskey every week.
All that and more. Hop on over, give us a listen, come for the football, stay for the whiskey.
This ad's almost done.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.
All right, they are going to be rolling around 267 times. Cody, who will be the leader at the 267th time they cross the start-finish line?
I'm not going to predict who. Well, actually, I probably will predict who's going to be leading then, and then it won't cash because we'll go to overtime and we'll get fucked out like we always do. So I'm going to try and instead predict the winner at the end of the race, whatever lap number that may be, Rod. But yeah, you've got, so looking at the odds here, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex, they're kind of all in that plus 450, plus 500 range. Then it drops off to Byron Reddick after that. And so I love Denny Hamlin. He burned me last week, so this is probably the week he turns around and gets it done. I almost went there, but I went down a little farther on the board. I'm gonna take bigger odds this week and spread it out 4 ways. I couldn't figure out which guy to take off, Rod, so I left them all on there. We're gonna give them all out. We're gonna go for this again. It's football season. The Chiefs and Lions kick off here on Thursday. You're gonna be putting in those first touchdown bets. Just treat this one similarly, right? So we're going to start with Tyler Reddick, 9-1 over with our friends at DraftKings. Reddick has been fast this season. He's been pretty good here in the past. That 45 car has won 2 of the last 3 races at this track with Kurt Busch, with Bubba Wallace behind the wheel. Now you've got Tyler Reddick in there. Michigan, you go back to Michigan. Chris Buescher ends up winning the race, right? If you remember late in that race, it was Buescher and Reddick dueling it out. Reddick takes the pit stop. I think there was a loose tire that time. The problem with Reddick is there's a lot of mistakes on that team, right? And if they can just get past the mistakes, they can be so good. There's so many times they've been in position and a mistake takes them out. You saw it last week at Darlington. One of the fastest cars, I think him and Hamlin were the fastest 2 cars. Ends up not getting the win. Obviously, Larson comes on late and ends up winning. And Reddick, I think Reddick ended up finishing second to Larson, right? So coming off of a second place finish, that's a good points day for him. Reddick is my surprise guy to make it to the Final 4, so I'm big on him to make a run here, and I think that it really can start this week as he wins at Kansas at 9-1. So let's see. Last year, He started in 8th. He led 30 or started in 8th. Last year in the 8th, he started on the pole. He led 38 laps, but he crashed out of the race. He was very fast here in the spring. He led 23 laps, had to settle for a 9th place finish. And then I talked about earlier how well he started here. So if you're going to get him to start up front, and then again, Michigan, he was so fucking fast there. And this is a track most comparable to Michigan, mini Michigan, they like to call it. So, I love Tyler Reddick this week. I think his number is really good at 9-1, especially when that team and that car number has won 2 of the last 3 here. I haven't seen the paint scheme, but if it's a Jumpman scheme, you better know that car is going to be good. I really kind of hope that it is, because that car is always good when it's a Jumpman, it seems like. Going to go with this teammate also, Bubba Wallace. I talked about him earlier. Really good here. He won this race last fall. He's 12-1. He's had the fastest car in 2 of the last 3 races here, 2 of the 3 races in the next gen car. This is his track. We talk about when guys have tracks circled. He's got this one circled. He knows he can do it here. He did it last year. He can do it again. I think Bubba Wallace at 12-1 is a good bet. Chris Buescher, hopefully you're in the Discord. You saw me put it in there when the lines dropped. I said Chris Buescher 20-1 auto bet. It's dropped to 16-1. Our friends at DraftKings still have the best price. You've got to bet Chris Buescher at 16-1. He almost did it again last week, Rod. That would have been 4 ovals in a row. He has found himself in position to win 4 oval races in a row. He's won 3 of them, finished 3rd in the other one. It's still at 16-1. This is you're getting Austin Hill of the Cup Series. It's the best comparison we can make. If you've not been listening to the Xfinity shows every week, I apologize for all the money you have not made, because we've been killing it on that show. So definitely go check that out. And then Chase Elliott 22-1. Again, it's the same reason as earlier, right? Chase Elliott should not be 22-1. Do I feel like he's going to have the fastest car, be the best car this week? Probably not. But at 22-1, you can't not bet on him. There's way too much value here. We had the conversation earlier. They can show up. They can be the best. They got nothing to lose. They're not in the playoffs for the drivers part of things, right? Take a late gamble, play some strategy. Chase Elliott can win this race at 22-1. He should never be 22-1 anywhere. You've got to take some Chase Elliott at 22-1.
I concur. And with Reddick and Wallace, again, that 23-11 team, it's not going to surprise me when they're running up front. So probably won't surprise me if they both end up right there 1-2. I don't know what the Quinella or the Exacta was on that one, but I have to take a look at that. I went ahead and took Denny Hamlin. He's at 5-1 over on Superbook. Really, you made the case for him earlier for a podium finish. And I mean, if Denny Hamlin can finish in the top 3, he can win this race. He doesn't have to, he can't make mistakes is really what it ends up being. He's going to have to run a perfect race. He's going to have to stop with
that's the other reason I didn't bet Denny, because Rod took him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true though. I mean, anything can happen, and it can take a bad pit stop. It can take just a mental mistake to take you out of the win. But I think he's going to come back in this week a little more hungry for a win, because he felt like he probably got robbed out of one last week. So whatever tape he's going to have underneath his paint or his wrap this time is going to not be detected, because they probably won't take him to what you call it afterwards. But 5-1 for Hamlin to win. Not bad, especially if you think he's going to be as good as he is. Like I said, Cody gave you all the stats as far as where he's been running up front, and it's been a rough couple of weeks, but if any team can bounce back, it's Denny Hamlin. I think he can do that. So
and he's been in victory lane 3 times in a row at this track. Yeah, twice as the owner, but he gets all that information. Like he's in the best position of anyone to have the most amount of information for this track. So I like that pick.
Yeah, it's a chalky pick, but you have to pick at least one kind of chalky pick if you want to if you don't want to miss out when it happens. And then my long shot, I'm going to go with Bread K, 22-1 on DraftKings. We talked about how good RFK has been lately. We talked about how just solid that team has been running. Buescher obviously winning all those races. What is it? How many, Cody? 3 of the last 4 ovals he has won. So, I mean, his owner has to have some sort of notes from that as well, right? I mean, there's something over there.
He's been right there with him all those races. Really, he was in competition right with him in all those. Same thing with last year at Bristol. Like he was the best car early in that one, and then ends up being Buescher later. So like, if we expect Buescher to be good, And we've talked about it. They've, the TV's talked about it. Everybody's talked about it, right? One of the cars is good. The other car is right behind them. I mean, they're always right together. So all this talk about Buescher is supposed to be good. That means that Keselowski's going to be good too, right?
And it's not as if Brad Keselowski's never won a race here before. He's won 2 of them, in fact. And when you look at like where he's been running as far as just in general, 13 top 10s on this track in 27 starts. That puts him 5th on the list in terms of active drivers and top 10s on this track. He's got 7 top 5s. He's led 327 laps around this track. So it's not, again, it's a long shot. It's not one that you expect to happen, but look, Buescher's been able to punch through for so many wins in a row. Like, you've got to think that Brad is chomping, just waiting for his chance to do it. This may be a good chance as any for him to get it done. History doesn't really speak to it the last couple of seasons for Keselowski, but again, a lot like Buescher, you got to kind of throw that out the window, right? Because this is a different approach now for Brad Keselowski. It's a different mindset for this team. They're sniffing big season coming up. So like I said, it's a long shot, but I think Brad Keselowski could get this done at 22-1. Plus, this would also cash our Ford bet as well as with Buescher. So you kind of double dipping on that one. So I don't know. Like I said, Brad's slowly been inching toward a really good finish. 2nd at Darlington, 6th at Darlington, 2nd at Daytona, 4th at Michigan. Talk about mini Michigan. That's where we're at there. Earlier in Kansas, 19th, but again, that was kind of before the all but certain resurgence of RFK. They've been red hot lately. 6th at Richmond, 4th at Michigan, like I said. So, like I said, take a swing at Brad Keselowski. Don't go heavy, but if you want to sprinkle a little bit, this would be a good one to do it.
Yeah, I like it. No arguments for me here. Again, it's similar issue or similar argument as you're giving Buescher. So I like it.
Yep, both of them are going to run together, so might as well think they're going to run up front. All right, get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our bets for this Hollywood Casino 400. Cody started you off with Denny Hamlin on the podium, which is 3rd place for those of you non-open wheel racers, at plus 160 over on Caesars. I gave you William Byron as a top 3 car at plus 240 over there on Bet365. Cody gave you Bubba as a top 5 car at plus 200 at 365. I gave you Buescher as a top 5 car at 2-1 over on 365. Cody gave you Elliott as a top 10 car at plus 140, also on 365. And then Austin Dillon as a top 10 car at 8-1 on DraftKings. And then I gave you Joey Logano as a top 10 car at plus 110 over on Bet365. Cody once again returned to Bubba, but picked him to finish better than Ross Chastain at minus 125 over on Superbook. I said that Tyler Reddick would finish better than Christopher Bell at minus 110 on Superbook. Cody gave you the Caesars bundle of all of the following to finish in the top 5, Byron, Reddick, and Buescher at 12-1 on Caesars. And then Cody gave you Reddick as a pole winner at 9-1 and Bell as a pole winner at 10-1. I said that you could pretty much take a chance on Ford as the winning manufacturer at 4.5-1 on DK. Cody gave you Tyler Reddick at 9-1 on DraftKings, Bubba Wallace at 12-1 on DraftKings, Buescher also on DraftKings at 16-1, and Elliott on the same at 22-1 on DraftKings to win this race. I said Hamlin at 5-1 on Superbook and Brad K at 22-1 on DraftKings to win the Hollywood Casino 400. Cody, got a race. I want to hurry up and get to Sunday so we can watch this race.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go. And we've got a couple of good races, Chucks and Xfinity leading up to it. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm ready to go.
Everybody in the house for this race. So, all right. Well, then let's send everybody off and on their way to fill out their cards and let everybody enjoy the rest of their whatever day they're listening to this on. And in the meantime, Cody, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, follow me on X at Husker_Zeeb. Ton of stuff over there. I've got my running back rankings for week 1 article out for Last Word on Sports. Goes through the top 3 tiers of running backs. Make sure you check that out. And then I have the DraftKings article that I talked about earlier for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. It's got a stack for every game on the Sunday main slate. Go check that out. Ton of other stuff as well. Back with the F1 Gambling Podcast this week. F1 is off, but we're going to have a F1/IndyCar recap show. And then we've got IndyCar later this week. We'll see what day they decide to give us odds this time, but final IndyCar race, unfortunately, for the year, but we'll be here to cover it no matter when they give it to us.
We got to find another open wheel series to cover when both of those are gone. So
Right.
we'll figure this out. I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between media. Check out the Back Road on Thursday. Seth and Elliott hanging with you to break down Kansas. And then, of course, check out For Frequency's Sake. I am there with my Fast Money show to get you set up with some fun parlays for the weekend as well. We'll see you tomorrow with whatever they give us. The Xfinity Cup or truck, rather. We'll see. We'll see what they give us next, and we'll be there for you to do that. Until then, everybody, let's go racing and let it ride.